Well, the Forum on the Family is coming up in August, Thursday 28th and Friday the 29th of August. It's at the Dewdrop Event Centre in Manukau City, just down the road from Rainbow's End. And the conference is going to bring together a national network of family-focused organisations, scholars, church and community leaders and individuals who are social conservatives, just like you. So you're invited. The theme of this year's forum is Courage at a Cultural Tipping Point. And we have an amazing lineup of brave speakers on key social issues from the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And in this episode of McBlog, I want you to meet, well, it's actually three of the speakers. And I caught up with them all recently online and asked them a little bit about themselves and about their messaging for the conference. So firstly, we're going to meet Dr. Miriam Grossman from the US, and then a short comment from our very special guests who we're doing a pre-recorded interview with, Israel and Maria Folau. Me is Dr. Miriam Grossman, and Miriam, I actually had a look back through our records, and you were last in the country in 2012, so that is 13 years ago. And interestingly enough, when you came over, you were focusing on the sex education that was in schools at the time, and basically your conclusion when you examined it was that it was unsafe, it wasn't telling kids the truth, and that hasn't changed, has it?
That has not changed, and I remember my visit so well, and I remember spending time with you and your family, and I remember getting some Manukau honey from New Zealand. No, sex education, so-called comprehensive sexuality education, is actually where I discovered the whole gender ideology. Gender ideology is part and parcel baked into sexuality education. But in general, it's important for parents to understand that sexuality education is not about health. It's about sexual freedom. It's about indoctrinating kids to believe that we are all sexual beings from cradle to grave, and that every person, every child has the right to decide when and how they wish to explore their sexuality. And no one should be stepping in and telling them, it's healthy to wait. It's smart to wait. Sex is not for kids, not for adolescents. Your brain is still developing. Sex is a serious matter. One sexual encounter can change the rest of your life, can have a negative impact on the rest of your life, either because of a disease, a sexually transmitted disease, because of a unwanted pregnancy, or because of some, emotional reaction to it. Sex is serious. And so you're right, Bob, that so-called comprehensive sexuality education is I would say at this point that it is just filled with poisonous ideas, dangerous, poisonous ideas from which you want to protect your children at all costs.
And so since you visited New Zealand, and you also helped write a report that we published called R18, which was exposing just how deeply flawed the sex education in New Zealand was and still is, you've now become, well, I have to say, a bit of a star, because you are one of the voices of common sense and reason on the Daily Wire's What is a Woman documentary, where you looked very good, but it wasn't hard to look good because some of the so-called experts were so wacky. But how has the lies and deception around sex education morphed into this whole area of the transgender agenda that you're now focused on?
Yeah, well, as I wrote in one of my earlier books, I wrote in 2009 that gender ideology was going to be a disaster for our kids, telling children that there's such a thing as being born in the wrong body, and that it is normal to feel dissociated, like to feel, like you don't belong in your body, and that your body has to be changed medically and surgically in order to match your feelings. These are very, very dangerous ideas. And this is why we're in the mess that we're in right now. Unfortunately, I was right when I warned parents all those many years ago. What many people don't understand, people are upset and are beginning, at least in many countries, I'm not up to date on New Zealand, but in many countries, people are waking up, and medical associations are waking up and realizing the dangers of gender ideology and so-called gender affirming care, but they're not understanding that gender ideology is baked into sexuality education. So we have to revise, I would say we have to just completely throw out, like in the garbage, toss it in the rubbish. You would probably, our current sexuality education, along with tossing in the garbage gender ideology. And we have to teach children from the youngest ages that, say you're talking to a little boy and you're going to want to say to him, you were a boy from the very moment that you were created. Nothing happens in the delivery room. There's no assignment. There's no doctor or midwife that's deciding if you're a boy or a girl. You were established to be a boy or a girl from the moment that you existed inside your mother, 9 months before you were actually born. And that's the case forever. And that will never change. And don't let anyone ever tell you that could change. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be a boy, and it's wonderful to be a girl. And you know what? There isn't just one way to be a boy or a girl. There are many ways. And not every boy is into sports and into science and building things and, all these stereotypes. There are boys that might be into more girl kind of things, and that's fine. There are boys who might want to dance and be into fashion and into cooking, or however you want to put it. These stereotypes are ridiculous, right? And when I was growing up, the whole point was to eliminate these stereotypes. So, and now here we are, gender ideologues are misleading young people and telling boys who don't fit into stereotypical, male persona, oh, well, maybe you're a girl, not a boy, which is a criminal thing to do, a terrible thing to a boy, to do to a boy. We have to, and parents also have to understand that there are different ways of being a boy and a girl, and be open to the possibility that your children may not fit into the idea that you have of what it is to be a boy or a girl, and be open to that. Otherwise, your child may be vulnerable to this ideology.
Yeah. Look, just finally, we'd love to host you in New Zealand, but we know that's just impossible due to your location and difficulties of travel. So we're going to take advantage of virtual reality, and you and I are going to have a discussion live at the conference. What do you think are the couple of key points that you really want to get across to all the delegates that are going to be there?
Okay. Depends how much time we have, but, I think it's important to get into the John Money story, because John Money, this psychologist, it's up to you, Bob, but it provides the foundation of gender ideology and where this idea came from, that sex is separate, can be separate from the body. So that's one thing. The other thing is the way that the medical organizations have been captured by activists. So parents don't understand, if they go to the pediatrician or they go to the gender specialist, the therapist, they don't understand that the organizations like the pediatrics organization, the mental health organizations, that they have been captured by by ideologues, by activists who, have commandeered the organization, and they've come out with these policy statements and guidelines. There's never been a consensus. So these organizations have come out with guidelines regarding gender affirming care. Gender affirming care calls for every child's identity to be rubber stamped. So if your 5-year-old comes to you and says, "Mom, I'm not your son, I'm your daughter, call me by this new name, I want to wear dresses, I want to use the girls' bathroom," you're supposed to rubber stamp that. And me as a doctor, I'm supposed to rubber stamp that, which is outrageous. Obviously, it's outrageous to anyone with common sense. Nevertheless, that's what gender affirming care says. So I want parents to understand the background of gender affirming care, where it came from. It comes from Holland, from a small study. I want to be able to explain that. Bob, I want to educate people. I want to educate parents so that they're not caught, unaware. They don't just one day wake up and have their child at the dinner table announce, "I'm not your son, I'm your daughter. I'm not your daughter, I'm your son." I want them to be prepared for that. How are they going to deal with that? How are they going to understand it? But better yet, how do you hopefully avoid that from ever happening?
Well, I'm sorry it's taken us 13 years to get you back to the Forum on the Family, but we're very excited that we've been able to arrange it for this year. I know I've been hankering you for a couple of years to get you there. So this is the year, and our delegates can really look forward to an inspiring, empowering, but challenging presentation as we speak to you and do this interview together. So looking forward to that, Miriam, and we will see you in August.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it, Bob.
Hey guys, I'm Israel Folau.
And I'm Maria Folau.
And we're looking forward to sharing our story with you at the upcoming Forum on the Family in August.
It'll be the first time that we share our side of the story with you in New Zealand. We're excited to tell you about our experience, how much it has strengthened our faith, our marriage, and we hope that you feel very encouraged by it. We'll do an interview with Bob, and we hope you enjoy it.
So here's the full lineup of speakers for the forum. Dr Miriam Grossman, live from New York. Dawn Hawkins in person. A pre-recorded interview with Israel Maria Folau. Now that's due to Israel's rugby commitments in Japan at the time of the conference. And also in person, Kirralie Smith, Jeff Johnson and Amanda Ackman. Now register today. Go to forumonthefamily.nz. The last 3 years have been sellouts, so don't delay. forumonthefamily.nz. Register today.